Hi, welcome to Crafting Made Easy with Craft Room Time. I'm Lori and I'm going to be teaching you how to do all these wonderful things. Just a quick look at our December boxes as we put them together. It was a lot of fun. And for the December box, we're going to be making these Happy New Year signs and stars. I'm going to open up a new canvas in Design Space and go to Upload. And here you're going to upload an image, and you're going to go find where you saved the files that were provided to you for this project. I do want to point out that you're going to see files that look like this, and it says Microsoft HTML, or it could say Chrome, or it could say scalable vector graphic, but that is the file that you will upload into Design Space. I believe that because I use different computers, depending on what I'm using is how it names the file, but this is the file that you will be using. I'll also provide you with a JPEG file just so you can see what the file looks like without having to go into Cricut. So you'll upload that file and it'll come in and it'll show you just what the file looks like. And you're going to want to tag it here, and that's so that you can search later. It's just a feature that makes it easier to find things later. So I'm going to go ahead and call this Stars Beginners. I will be providing you with intermediate and advanced files as well. So this will just make it easier for you to find these basic star shapes. And then you're going to want to save. It brings it into this side, and then you want to click on that file and it puts a green box around it once you select it. It also brings it down to this little bar down here, and you can click that X to deselect it or leave it as is, and it tells you what files you're bringing in, because you can bring in multiple files. So we're just going to select that one and leave it there as is, and then go to Insert Images. Depending on how big the file is how long it takes for Cricut Design Space to load it in. And sometimes Design Space is a little slow, so it may take a little bit of time. Just have a little bit of patience and it'll come in. When files typically come in, they come in grouped. So these files are all grouped and they show you the dimension of the overall. To give you an idea, if you were going to cut this right now, what it would look like on the mat, possibly if you had them all attached. But also it allows you to move it around. That's all it does. So we're going to ungroup it, and then I'll show you what size each individual star is. So each individual star is 4 by 4 inches. And now when they're ungrouped, you can move them around if you like, if you need to. I'm also pointing out that the stars have a top and a bottom, so you want to take note of that when you're putting them together. Also, this little area down at the bottom gives you the ability to zoom in or zoom out on your projects. So now at this point, you should be ready to make it. Everything that I provide to you is already sized for your projects. And if you ever have any questions, you'll want to go back to the tutorials that I have on YouTube or in your book to find out how to do certain things. In each one of these tutorials that I'm giving you, I won't be going through specific learning tidbits like that, because I will assume that you've already read or that you can go look for it. At this point, you're going to want to save your project. Give it a project name, and again, I'm going to use the Stars Beginners, and then just save it. So if anything goes wrong, if you've made changes or whatever, it's going to know already that you've saved it and it will be there. It saves it in your projects that I just pointed out. And now you're going to go to Make It. Make It puts all of the stars on the mats as far as Cricut thinks that they should go. So there's some things that we can do here to maximize our paper. We can move the stars around to try to maximize the paper that we're using. And these little things that I'm moving over here now, those are just pieces of paper that will go across the star right here that you'll glue your stick to. You can also use tape. You don't have to cut these out. You can just tape them. When you put your stars together, you won't see them anyway, so you don't really need to cut them out if you don't want to. So now I want to point out that we are using an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, so I'm going to go ahead and change it to an 8.5 by 11 so I can see what space I'm working with, and if I can change the mats around, move the stuff off of the other mats onto the one mat so that I can cut just one piece of paper. Now you've got a black and a silver for the stars. So we want to try to get as much as we can. So you're going to go to the second mat and click on those little 3 dots. And that gives you the option to move your star onto a different mat. So you have the options of mat 1, mat 2, or mat 3. So we're going to move it from mat 2 to mat 1. It puts it on top of the other stars. You just kind of have to find where it put it. And then you're going to position things around to be able to get them onto one mat. So this time it didn't put it up in the corner, it put it on that star. So that's what I'm saying, you have to go find where it put it on the mat. And now I'll just work with these stars until I can get them all on one mat. I use the rotate tool, which is up in the upper right corner, and move the stars around so that I can try to get them all on the same mat. It just takes a little practice in moving things around like a puzzle. So now I've got it all made, and I'm going to put this diagram in your instructions so that you can follow along to see how they were all positioned. So you can cut more than 2 stars on one piece of paper. And you'll see that mat 2 and mat 3 now have nothing on them, so they won't cut. They still show, but they won't cut. And now you're going to go ahead and click on Continue. And then you're going to select your maker machine and set your base material. You have your favorites and these others. So if you go to Browse Materials, this is where you'll set your favorites and you'll find your different materials that you use. So you'll see that under cardstock I already had 3 favorited, or you can browse under all categories, or you can type in what you need, or you can see here all the different options you have available to you. So you can see I've selected 3 that are already on my favorites. We're going to be using glitter cardstock for the stars. So if you just go over to the search, you'll go type in glitter, and then you can find the glitter cardstock. And then you can put the little star over to the right, just click on it, and it'll add it to your front page on the favorites, and click Save. For the pressure, for glitter, I like to use more, because you want it to cut all the way through the cardstock, and it is pretty thick. You have also default and less, but for other projects possibly, but for glitter I like to use more. Then your Cricut's going to tell you on the machine by the blinking lights to load the mat. Make sure that you have the fine point blade in, and then you'll press the little C when it starts blinking to be ready to cut. So now we're going to use the green mat for the paper. I did give you enough to do a silver, a gold, and a black star. So I'm going to take the silver first. I'm going to attach it to the mat, press down very firmly. My mat is a little bit, it's been used quite a bit. I'm going to use the brayer, which I suggest that everybody get. The Cricut brand, because it really helps to adhere that paper to the mat, especially in the middle. And the Cricut brayer is nice. I like that material. Just to be on the safe side, I'm going to go ahead and use some green painter's tape just to show you that this is what I do to ensure that that glitter paper isn't going to slide around. That's the last thing you want to have happen when you're cutting something. And I just position it on the corners, and it stops the paper from moving around on your mat, which is going to cause your cuts to be off, and it'll ruin your paper. So just because this paper is expensive, I'm just on caution, and I'll put tape on each 4 corners before I start to cut and make sure that it's very well adhered to. Some stars have been cut. As you can see, I only did 4 on one page, which is fine. You could do the 6 or the 4, however you want to do it. Just remove your mat. The thick cardstock comes up pretty easy, so no problems. And then I'll go ahead and I'll put on the silver, and I'll just run it back through again, using the same steps with the tape and the brayer, so I don't have any accidents. Repeat the process for the silver as well as the black using the same steps. You're going to see on the silver that I cut out those little pieces again. So in order to hide those pieces that we don't want to cut, you can come back into Design Space. I'm going to show you this real quickly, although it's not going to work for this, but you can edit and you can rearrange the projects, but it doesn't give you the other one to hide. So we're going to have to, and at this point you can also change it to mirror if you forgot. So I'm going to click done, and then I'm going to have to hit cancel, and we'll come back. Are you sure you want to cancel this cut? And say yes. So now we're back at the mat, and now I can go ahead and hide these pieces, these 3 pieces, because I don't want to cut them out on every single one. I don't need them. Okay, there you go. And then you would just continue. Let me show you quickly another way that you could do this before. If you decide you're going to use tape and not want to cut these little pieces, which is perfectly fine too, you'll just come in here, make sure this is ungrouped, select these little triangles. You'll see them over here as well. And you can hit this little eyeball button over here to the right, and it hides it. Or you can just hit delete if you don't want to ever use them again. But you'll just select each one and just use the little eyeball, and it hides them, and so they will not show up on your mat. So that's just a quick way to learn how to not cut things that you don't want to cut. Now that all the pieces are cut, you're going to go ahead and attach the stick to the back of the silver star. I used glue. You can use tape. It doesn't matter as long as the stick is secured. Then just let that dry thoroughly before you continue on. For the purpose of the video, I continue to go on. So I'm going to go ahead and add the little foam dots to each of the points on the star. And this is to give it the height that it needs to get over the stick, but yet still stick to the other one that you're going to put on top. And remove the little plastic that's on top of the little foam dots. Sometimes they're tricky, so you can use the tweezers that I've provided to you. Then just stick the star, press down on each of the little points so that the foam dots are secured. And that's our little wand. And you can use these in your planters or, just in a table decoration or whatever you want to do. And then just take the gold one and offset the silver and just apply some more sticky dots. And you want to do it to the silver side so that when you put the gold on, you know that it won't show through. You're not putting it in the wrong place. And do that to both sides. And you want to line up your points on the gold as well. And then one more, and you can add the black. And you can do these in any order, of course, as you wish. The black does not have a back, so it might be best to put the black first. The silver and the gold both have, the backs are gold and silver. I'm just going to add another one to the black, another foam dot so that it's not wiggling all over the place. And then turn it over and repeat. And there's your cute little star. Something very simple, but it really looks pretty. Up next is our New Year's banner. Stay tuned as I show you how to create that as well.